Hey, what's up? It's your girl Tamara, aka Girl from Harlem.
And this is Ray Daniels, aka the Culture Referee.
And this is the GAUDS Show. Today we have a very special guest. I'm gonna let Ray introduce
My brother,
him.
my man, this is my dog right here. This is when I say things on this podcast, it's certain people who I think about when I say it out my mouth because I know they're gonna text me or say some shit to me.
Damn right.
So he'll be in the comments talking his shit. So I got my brother Tricky Stewart, one of the biggest producers of all time, one of the founders of the Atlanta scene. Tricky's the first guy to have his own studio here. He's one of the first guys to have his own shit here. And you know, I remember coming up in the business, you know, I was trying to break into their studio to get in there and work. So I was hanging out outside. Then, you know, he got smart to put the gate up for people like myself. I remember when Red Zone didn't have a gate. I remember when it was just, you could just pull up the Red Zone. But we got my brother Tricky Stewart here, man. Welcome to the show, Tricky Stewart.
Yo, thank you. Thank you for having me.
This should be a funny conversation because we have these conversations all the time.
Absolutely.
So all right. So I just want to come in. You have a lot of titles attached to you, right? So you got producer,
that's the
record
only one.
exec, songwriter, music producer. So that's what I was going to ask you. Which title means the most to you, or which one describes you best?
I'm a record producer.
And what does that mean?
It means everything. I mean, the record producer is the person that makes the records. It's the person that picks the writer. It's the person that picks the studio. It's the person that picks the feature. It's the person that chooses the guitar player. It's the person that handles the money. It's the person that keeps it on budget.
What don't you do?
I'm telling you, that's a. By the way, I think he's just sending subliminal messages to all the dudes that say they are producers that just make beats and send them off in charge. Tricky's gonna let y'all know what a producer does. You gotta let them know.
So what's the difference between somebody who just sends a beat pack and you?
I work for the label. I guess this is the biggest thing. Like what the fee is and what the fee actually represents is the fact that there's a compromise that has to be made to get to a hit record. And the producer basically goes in with the artist, figures out what it is that they want to do and what the label is ultimately needing to deliver, and kind of meets in the middle and puts that together. And that's where the fee comes from for producers historically, is that you're the person that orchestrates, and it's not a fee that comes to you. It's the budget comes to you, and then you pay everybody that's attached to the project. It's your job to hire every single person that's in that room, every engineer who's going to record that vocal, who's going to mix that record, who's going to master that record, everything in between. It's your job to really figure it out. So when you really look at, you know, going back or something like that, where like if you look at like somebody like Michael Jackson, one of the biggest artists in the world, when he went to work with somebody like Teddy Riley, he worked with Rex and Effect because that's what he was on. And he was representing Virginia. It wasn't like, let's get the biggest artist. It was like, so if you look at the Neptunes, when Justin Timberlake was like, I'm going to make an album, he worked with the Clips.
Exactly.
Like, it's about the culture. So if Michael was working with this person, then that meant Heavy D was coming. And that's what it means to be a producer. You're really responsible for everyone, like musically, because it wasn't a marketing exercise of who you put on records. It was about it was a culture thing of something that the artist was coming to you to understand.
It sounds like putting a team together is a very intricate part of the record making process, right? So when putting a team together, like what are the things that you look for to kind of make that perfect team that can make a hit record?
I mean, me personally, everybody I'm looking for is gifted. So the biggest thing is, if I put you in a room with somebody as the producer, I need you to trust it 1,000%, even if you never heard of them. It's not about what they've done. It's about what I understand that they can bring to you. So ultimately, there's just a trust factor that goes on that when you're working with a Mariah Carey, if you look at how Jermaine Dupri worked with Mariah Carey, it was what Jermaine saw fit, because she wanted some of that escape sound. You know what I mean? Like when you really look at it, when you go, Always Be My Baby, and you listen to that song, that's an escape song, right?
Yeah,
and so when they hear that thing, they're like, I want more of that. You know what I'm talking about? So it's kind of
respecting the artist's vision and stuff like that, right? I think that's.
Respecting the artist's vision is one part, but that's not always what pays the bills. And so
what pays the bills?
Hits.
And how you get to the hits?
By studying. You have to know. If you're a producer, I don't make music. Like, I make hits. Then there's a difference between making music and making hits. Like, I gave up music when I was in church, and I came here to make hits.
right, so before I even get into all of that,
I love Tricky.
he done threw the church in there.
I mean, that's what music
now
is.
You see
to
why
me.
I call him? Now you see why I
That's
call
my
him?
favorite music. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
The
gospel
Elvis
all
movie we
day.
went to go see, and all of that comes from the church. So I agree with you. But you came from Illinois, not Illinois. I said it right, Illinois, right? So,
But
what
then you
was-
said it wrong.
I said Illinois.
He comes from a very royal family. Of the Stewarts are a royal musical
We
family.
know,
Yes,
right? We spoke with
Mark.
Yeah, the other day. So, but anyway, I really wanted to ask you, like, what is the biggest cultural difference between Atlanta and Illinois?
Illinois has no opportunity. Atlanta is everything.
Why doesn't Illinois have any opportunity? We
Chicago,
have the
you
internet
talking
now.
about? I mean,
Well, no, I'm going strictly.
there. I mean, the opportunities there are just like there's only a couple things to do in Chicago or Illinois, and it's not positive. And so Atlanta is full of opportunity from the standpoint that the South, like when you start talking about the South is music based. This is a place where music runs everything, not the music business, but just the culture of music itself. And so my introduction to Atlanta was coming to Atlanta and going to Morehouse with Jermaine Dupri and the kids opening up all the cars and turning on the radio station and everybody dancing in the middle. That's not happening in Illinois. You know, so musically, this is Southern hospitality goes a long way. Atlanta, I thought, exemplified that open, welcome, like come in, be okay. It's okay to be different. Like it's the Black Hollywood, you know what I mean? So, like Atlanta and Illinois are not the same. They're not even close.
Opposites.
You know what I'm saying?
Right, so I want to ask you, how did y'all two kind of end up crossing paths?
So I know Tricky through Mark. I know Mark, the way Tricky had all the producers under him and writers, like no bullshit. Like Tricky had all the hot producers. Like it was cool as fuck in the early 2000s to say I'm Red Zone. He know I ain't bullshit. Like he was like, you say you Red Zone, I mean you official. Mark had all of the young execs working under him, and he had this executive under him named Greg who introduced us. But I remember Tricky was like a phenom in the city because he was like the young guy that was coming up. And I didn't even realize that you had all that pressure on you until you did the JT Money record. You know, Mark told me the story. He was like, it was like you, Dallas, Jermaine, everybody, and you was the last one to like catch your hit on the list, but y'all just maintained your business. So I just remember seeing Tricky like when I came into business, Tricky Stewart was Tricky Stewart. I mean, he was already Tricky fucking Stewart. Like you knew he was. And you know, I had this artist I was managing, and he was just trying to get beats from producers at Red Zone. And if you had reviews with Red Zone, you was in there.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, the pressure and all that you allude to, that was just, I was given the same opportunities early on as Dallas, JD, and Organized Noise. And the people that ultimately I was like wanting to compete with were creating waterfalls. And
That's what Mark said.
and you know, like rat-a-tat-tat and like crisscross, and it's like, you know, it took me a minute. Like I was a little bit of a late bloomer because the part that eluded me early in my career is that I can produce with anybody. Like there's no producer that scares me, but writing, Jermaine Dupri, Dallas Austin, those guys, they were excellent songwriters.
Yes.
Songwriters. Now, producing wise, we may be able to talk. Like, you know, for the
Head to head
on some production.
Don't be humble.
You know what I'm saying? On some production. Those are my guys. Love them to death. But they have the gift of songwriting, which is something that, you know, like I'm a workhorse. Like at the end of the day, they're more gifted in that particular thing. But when it comes to what I chase down, which is sonic, like a sonic palette and how things get recorded, how things work together and vision of a song. Yeah, it's only a few of them.
So let me ask you, I want to know, like, when you came to Atlanta, how was your entrance into the music business? Because everybody knew who you was and y'all had a lot given to y'all early. Like, how the fuck did that happen?
It's interesting you say the word given.
Well, I mean, you had no. What I mean by that is like you guys. Like my thing was that you guys had everything that the guys who had the big hit, like you said, the waterfalls. You had what they had. You had the same opportunities they have. Some people had to fight for those opportunities.
Well, they had it because they had hits. originally my deal that was offered to me was for a house and 3 cars. I opted to with LaFace, right? Like a mansion, like LA offered me a house and 3 cars. So I took the money, wouldn't sign to LaFace. Mark negotiated so I wouldn't sign to LaFace, but he said, we'll pay you back, but we won't be signed, and we built Red Zone. And that's the beginning of the relationship of the power. Because even though we didn't have the hits, because when I came here from LA, I was coming off of Shantae Moore, Immature, Brandy. Like it was like I wasn't driving no projects. These guys is driving revenue.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like driving revenue. Like I'm like check to check, month to month, like, you know, but at the end of the day, Mark was just like, yeah, we don't really want to be signing nobody. But whatever that money was that you were going to give for that mansion, let us get that. In that building that we live in and that we work out of, that's the same building. And that was the most important move that we ever really made.
So you got the production deal from LA Reid, right? To do Red Zone. I mean LaFace, sorry. To do Red Zone, right? Is that what you're saying, that they initially offered you the cars and the house and then you was like, no, matter of fact, give me some cash and I'll start my own thing? Is that?
Well, no, Red Zone was already formed, but as far as Red Zone being a place that people pulled up to that had a perception, like for me, it was always very important. Like coming up in this industry, being a producer meant, one of the main things it meant is you had a place. Like DARP was a place.
Yep.
So Def was a place.
Yes.
LA and Face had a place.
Yeah.
Flight Time. That's the distinction
Noontime.
of producer.
Noontime.
Yeah, Noontime as well. I forget about Noontime sometimes because they were my direct competition.
Yeah.
Like direct competition, because the other guys were like out of my league in a way.
Yeah.
Like the numbers that Dallas Austin was putting up at the time were so massive that you know, like going into the studio, because me and him, like Dallas is probably in Atlanta my closest friend, like as far as the Atlanta music scene, and just being around him was completely intimidating at the time. Like,
Great.
it was completely intimidating. Like he had every keyboard, every microphone, everything that you could possibly want to make a record with, and so. But when you went in the studio, he would keep the cases on the front.
Yeah.
Because that's how secretive sound selection was. That you didn't, if another producer came over, even though we was friends, he was like, put the cases on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't like, oh, he uses this sound, he uses this keyboard. It was like everything was secretive, you know? And everything was like a culture of competition, like all the time, you know? So it was a different time in that, you know, I feel like the last person that I really had that relationship with that I love so much is Polo, you know?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where the rubber meets the road on everybody that wanted to fucking knock your head off for a hit record.
Yes.
After that, everybody was nice.
Yeah.
They started sharing sounds and shit.
Yeah,
I wish I could have got my hands on the Neptune sounds or Timbaland sounds or Jermaine Dupri sounds. Like, nah, it wasn't possible.
Damn,
They was hiding. They was sucking the sauce. They was like,
Polo. Shout out to Polo. He's always been known for like opening and like sharing. Like,
No, not with me.
Oh,
First
with you?
conversation I ever had with Polo called me up. The first time I ever talked to Polo, he was like, yo, you use my fucking snare, bro? First thing, like, our first conversation was heated, you know? Like, I was like, what makes you think that I need to use your sound? Don't you rap? You know, I just throw that in there. You know what I mean?
I want to get into the R&B stuff because that is what we hear.
No, get into get into R&B stuff, but let them talk his shit. I want because
that's not talking shit.
No, talk your shit, not talking shit. Talk your shit.
Give yourself your flowers. Yeah. But I want to ask you a question. So we've been arguing for a while about R&B and like where it started, who did what. Who do you think set the tone for R&B music? Like, of course, like we all think 90s R&B was the prime of R&B. What do you think?
I think it was the 80s.
I didn't ask you. Sorry.
Like, y'all think that R&B music was started in the 80s?
No. It was who set the tone? Like, what is the prime?
Gamble and Huff.
Got it.
She don't know about Ghetto.
Yeah, I don't know. That's all.
Yeah.
I had to
Me and Mrs. Jones, Lou
come on,
Rawls.
Okay,
yeah,
I know
like,
Mrs.
come on.
Jones. I got that.
They created the Philadelphia
Like,
sound.
yeah, come on now. Like, I mean, now,
They're the first. They're the first.
So
LA
tell
Reid and
us who set
Babyface.
the tone for R&B. Who set the tone?
If we're talking specifically 90s R&B, let's get into it, right? Then you're talking Jam and Lewis. You're talking Teddy Riley. You're talking LA and Babyface. You're talking Jermaine Dupri, Dallas Austin. Those people that I
Puff
named.
Daddy.
Who had it on the chokehold?
But
If
Puff
you get
Daddy,
back-
Puff Daddy is more. He comes at it from a hip hop standpoint. When you talk R&B, R&B comes from the church. Like really, when it's all said and done, R&B comes from a place of church musicians, people that make music. Puffy it mixed lifestyle with his understanding of music through the types of music that his mother ultimately played in the house. But he never took the next step of learning how to play those songs. He made it into a lifestyle, which I make the distinction there between that and the people that I named previously, like Jam and Lewis.
So what's your favorite ever R&B?
My favorite ever R&B?
Favorite era? Like what era is your favorite?
90s, 2000, 80s.
Tricky gonna get intricate. He's gonna say 2007 August.
No.
So he gonna have
When the rain was
Exactly.
falling.
No,
that rainy summer.
Late 80s, 90s.
So
late
what,
80s.
like, what's the song that stands out in your head when you start falling in love with R&B? What is the song that kind of made you get there?
Well, you know, I mean,
Or artists? I'll take artists.
look, it's Alexander O'Neal, it's Sherelle, it's like, it's the stuff of Jam and Lewis of being it's not the big artists that those people get to when they did Janet Jackson. It's what they did with Karen White. It's what they did with it's what they did with what the culture was then. You know what I'm saying? Like the culture was something different at that point, and then the parts that break out ultimately are the things that we have success, and then we call those things R&B, but in that moment they was called pop. You see what I'm saying?
Here goes my question, because I've been... let's go, because I asked you this, but I said I wanted to talk about it on camera. So, R&B, we typically tie to our community, right? The black community.
Yeah.
Overall, right? That's safe to say. Do our other counterparts, Caucasian and all them other people, do they have something the same as R&B? Like, what would be their...
R&B is soul. It doesn't have a color.
Country music is white man's R&B.
Like,
That's it?
No. You're missing people. You're missing Kenny Loggins. You're missing like people like Michael McDonald. You're missing people. R&B is a soul, and it doesn't have a color. This is one of the problems in the shit. Like R&B doesn't have a color. Like you can't tell Robin Thicke he's not R&B. You can't tell John B he's not R&B. They never wanted to be nothing else.
You know, so crazy. I tell people, I knew R&B I knew we was in a different era when they said Justin Bieber won't allow you to call his music pop. Ariana Grande, they was like, we are R&B singers.
Justin Bieber was never a pop singer. He never wanted to be a pop singer. Why do you think he came to Atlanta?
And did his
Why
whole
do you
album.
think they managed by somebody from Atlanta who understands soulful music? Like they didn't like Justin Bieber makes R&B albums, and his record company says, "Let him do an R&B album, and then we'll get the big hit." Mm-hmm. See, I've heard all this kind of stuff for years. Like R&B is Michael Jackson. R&B is Prince. R&B is the best parts of what we are in our musical culture. The biggest things, and the biggest thing that we can't do is throw people out when they start doing big shit talking about it's pop.
So give me an example. Give me an example of something that you don't think that we should throw out. Because
Lizzo, Doja Cat. It's a lot of stuff that's going on right now, whether it's Khalid, Frank Ocean, my guy, what's the amazing... Tyler, the Creator. It's so many things that black people want to be like, that's not like how we envisioned it.
Nah.
And I'll tell you a story, is that one of the biggest stories that changed the scope of LaFace is that when Outkast was coming out of Atlanta and Andre 3000 decided to change his image and show up on Saturday Night Live with the blonde wig, the product managers from New York was calling down to LA going, yo, like he need to be like, this is fucked up. Like he's coming up here crazy. Like he need to look like a rapper. He was like, well, what does a rapper look like? He's like, I mean, he wear Timbs and jerseys and this and that. He was like,
New York vibe.
and his response was, get the fuck away from my artist. Because we wouldn't have Outkast and Bombs Over Baghdad and things that you couldn't imagine that we look at today as normal without somebody being like, no, that's not what that looks like. So when people start pigeonholing things and saying that they got to be like this and got to, that's a slippery slope, because ultimately you don't get to Prince Roger Nelson. You don't get to Frank Ocean. You don't get to the things that get celebrated at the large scale by saying this sounds like that. And like if Prince wrote Raspberry Beret, what song can't you write as an R&B artist? Because he was R&B through and through.
Period.
But
I just want to say he's backing up my point about my top 5 CEOs in hip hop. That's what my point was about it, right? Hold on, hear me out. My point about top 5 CEOs. Hold on, hear me out. It's my top 5 CEOs in hip hop. Here's my point. My point is that it was that moment that he said with L.A. Reid and they called him. That moment could have been detrimental to Outkast's whole growth. LA could have been like, well, what do you guys think? We're going to do what you guys say. Dre, listen. But LA backed his artist. That's what you want a CEO to look like. Not someone who's like, I don't give a fuck, but someone who's passionate about you and your vision. I just had to say that.
Yeah,
yes,
so
sir.
CEO doesn't just mean being a CEO.
So, because a lot of people is on me about the CEO title, but they don't understand. I was saying, what artist would you be okay with what CEO would you be okay with your artist being signed to? Not what CEO made the most money, but who do you feel like Tricky Stewart is like, I'm gonna fuck with him because I know he's
what's the artist do?
It's a rap. We talking about rap. You got a female, you got a male rapper
all day.
That's why they was number 3 on my list.
I'm talking right now.
They was number 3 on my list all time though.
Yeah, I mean they honest. They not. There's no lies. I just like the way they do their thing. I think they have an incredible vision for themselves, and I got a lot of respect for them.
And more importantly, they back their artists up.
Exactly.
We're going to do what you want. What do you want? We're going to tell people. When you say, I want to come from a spaceship, land on the ground, and they're like, how we going to do that? The CEOs and I'm like, fuck that. Figure it out. We're going to figure it out. Our job is to make artists think they can fly. And mind you, I worked with LA. I worked under L.A. Reid, and that's the one thing that I noticed that I'd never seen before was someone who told artists, you're bigger than what you think you are. You want to fly at this level, but I know you can fly up here. And to me, that's inspiring, because if the person who writes the checks is telling you, if you want to build a jet, if you want to fly here, I'm going to build a plane, that artist is going to start thinking like out this world.
Yeah.
By the way, when Kanye got signed to Def Jam, he even said that. No, he said that. He said that I knew I was going to blow up because L.A. Reid was the CEO and he did Outkast. So I knew if he got Outkast that he would get me and what I'm trying to do.
I could see that.
No, I'm saying, but
there's absolutely. I mean, listen, a CEO, a producer, a writer, or whoever you encounter in this business, if they're trying to put you into the thing that they can sell, it's just because they can't sell nothing else. You know, and so a real CEO or real record man or woman like Sylvia, or like that historically that we've seen, their vision is about your vision. She can't, like what Missy Elliott did and what Busta Rhymes did at the time when it was being done, they were supported to the highest level. But she also had Metallica.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like
In Vogue.
Like each artist was different, and nobody had to go running down the same line that the last song just went through. It was like, no, you need to blaze that trail, and you need to blaze that one, and you're gonna blaze that one. And when you get that right person, they're gonna let you blaze a trail, because otherwise we would never have the likes of Outkast. We would never have the likes of Jay-Z without a Dame Dash. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would never happen. Somebody's got to go in there, burn everything down, chop all the trees down, put in, like, kill all the snakes.
Yes.
Then get it all the way to the dirt, and then be like, we about to put down soil and grass.
For you.
And that's what it takes. You know, even if you look at somebody that LA signed like Pink, you know what I'm saying? Like, Pink started off a girl from Philly that wanted to be an R&B singer. Mm-hmm. First album was R&B as hell. Second album, she wanted to be a rock star. Most people be like, you can't do that. He let her do it. Changed her life. She sold 4 million on the first copy. I mean, first time, you know what I mean? It wasn't like it was.
It wasn't like it failed. Like she was.
But the fact that she was willing to turn her back, she heard something else for herself, and he supported that. And you know, even like signing Frank Ocean with me, you know, I mean, like it is what it is. You know, like he didn't get it all the way, but he got it enough.
But that's the thing I liked about him. He got you.
Yeah.
And if he got you, he let you do what you needed to do. Unlike some people was like, I don't get it. Like he got you. If he got you, he let you rock. Yeah. CEO shit.
Well, that I figured out one thing about that is that you can't take a check to get that opinion.
Mm-hmm. Explain that a little bit.
You can't take a check to get that opinion. He has that relationship with me because when I'm on the outside, we the same. But when I'm on the inside, we different. Right? And because we work for you. Mm-hmm. But in my real life, it's his job to chase me.
Yes.
Right? Like, and when I work in this company, I got to chase him. I don't like that part because I don't have an ego about a lot of shit, but I know what I bring to the table. And you know, at the end of the day, if I got more Grammys.
Matter of fact, I got a question about that. Since you brought up Grammys, I want to ask this: is there like a clear cut like the price today is not the same price as tomorrow?
Tricky, you won Best New Producer at the Grammy on stage. No, but you actually I'm saying, but he actually won on stage though. Like it's all Grammys ain't created equal. Yeah, it'd be fake. Like some Grammys you get like on the red carpet. Like you won here. I think you actually Tricky. I think you actually went on stage for Producer of the Year. Am I right?
You got to stand on that good old stage.
Well, let me just say this: some pop a little shit. No, the truth is, I've never been nominated for Producer of the Year because it's like it's one of the little glitches in the Grammys is that you kind of have to submit yourself, and by the time you realize that, you're kind of maybe whatever. But I got to accept the award on Beyonce's behalf for Song of the Year when we wrote it, Single Ladies, and ultimately, it's you know, that was a crazy day because Dream showed up right as the lights was going down. Jay sat next to me as the lights was going down. Was like, "Hey, B can't get ready, but we probably not gonna win. But if she does win, she wants you to accept. Wow. And this is what she wants you to say." And that shit happened when the lights went down. Boop! Not a big deal normally. But have you ever watched the Grammys and seen the Song of the Year be the first award? Because that's what happened to me.
Oh, wow.
The first award of the night.
Not the first one.
Right? And so
top to bottom.
When they say the lights is bright, this is how I know I'm not meant to be in front of the camera. You know, it's the moments that let you know. Like, I was sitting there and they called our names, and the way that the song was listed, for whatever reason, it was listed by Kook's name first, which his name is Status. So it takes a second for this to register in my head. I'm like, because we had won one earlier before you know the screen comes on.
Just won one earlier.
And it kind of like threw me. And I was like, oh, we won. So by the time I get up there, I have a complete flash flood of my body. I'm talking about a flash flood. Like, I'm wet through and through. From the toes, ass, titties, everything wet. Everything wet. Collar went from like this, like 1969. I am so sweated out, bro. And those lights, it's the brightest light I've ever seen. I have never felt anything like that. And God bless every artist that can do any sort of entertainment underneath those guidelines. God bless y'all.
Your makeup will melt right in front of your face.
Let me ask you a question. Tell me, can you give me a hit song that you did that was written for someone else that someone else got?
I mean, just
give me the one that pops in. Because I heard a rumor that Umbrella was made for Britney Spears.
Yeah.
So how the hell does it get to Rihanna before it gets to Britney? Now, Britney Spears was...
I know, but
I did... Well, the context is I did Britney's album before that, right? The In The Zone album. And had a very good relationship with her because I ended up taking over the whole project. But the unfortunate part is between that project, which was 2003, and around 2005, six or whatever, that time when that song was written, Britney had some difficulties.
Exactly.
So my relationship was directly with her, bodyguard. It was real. So I was going through the label, and I sent the record to all the powers that be at the label at the time, and they just, obviously she's a mega star, so nobody can really make her do nothing.
Yeah.
And they were just like, yo, we just can't get the answer. And then ultimately they just rejected it. And we sent the song to a few people quietly. And the main person that we sent it to was Karen Kwok.
Did you know it was a hit? Because sometimes it's all your babies. Did you feel like this one is...
Well, because
that was the beginning of the explosion.
Yeah.
Listen, the part that happened was I was having a little bit of trouble getting the songs that I liked at the time. I had an incredible roster of writers. I had this girl named P. Magnet. I had Esther Dean. I had Tyle Cruz. I had Dream. I had Rico Love in the building. And I was just getting so many songs, but I couldn't get the song that I needed based on the project that was coming in. So during that time, it was late December, I said, hey guys, going into next year, I said, everybody's still welcome to come. I said, but I need to get you just a call. I need you to call and tell me that you're coming so I can really, make the shit happen. And,
exactly.
And so everybody got offended besides Dream. Everybody really was offended by that. And I don't know that he wasn't offended by that, but he wasn't offended enough to not show up. Dream and I had never written together. Dream was in the building and more so working with my brother at the time. And the way that my situation is, people think I'm humble. I like that. But the way that my situation really works, it's a lot of work to get in the room. I'm not people call me for years and years and years.
Hold on. I know. I tried. I was trying to tell y'all, you couldn't get in the room with Tricky. Tricky was he was he do
that in real life.
He was like the Wizard of Oz. He was in the and his brother was his manager, so he kept you had to be special to get in the room with him.
Yeah.
Well, because
look how
writing is
the most
writing is super intimate, and it's not the era of writing that I come from. We don't just get in a room and start busting on each other. You know what I mean? It's a very
chemistry.
Yeah, it's a different thing. So this created the path for me and Dream to finally write. And we had experimented a few times. When I went out to Britney, we tell two different stories. One of ours is the truth. I don't know what it is, but somehow he took a shot at the track that ended up becoming Me Against the Music and just did a track down. And I just always felt he had incredible energy when he writes and when he creates. And there was just something always different, but at the same time was really locked into the person that I was working with. And I was also dating that person at the time. So it was a chemistry that was kind of had some layers to it, and it didn't have anything to do with the music. But at the same time, I felt like we were creating some game-changing stuff at the same time. But we got this opportunity, this window, during Christmas. And I work during Christmas, That's my main thing. When everybody goes home, I like to show up. So Dream was the only person that wanted to show up, and Kook, because I had just started working with Kook. So we got in the room, and I don't know how it happened, but we had a 7 a.m. session.
What?
We started me and Dream like to work a lot of times really early, 6, 7. He came pick me up about 5:30. We got coffee, went to the studio, and by 9 o'clock we had written Suffocate and Umbrella, and it was our first time writing together. And we just kind of looked at each other and was like, I think we can go home. To answer your question, if we thought it was a hit, I can't say that we thought it was a hit, but I knew that nobody else had nothing like we was working on. And I that was when I really figured out originality, because my brother Laney with Dream and this girl that I used to work with, P. Magnet, he told me, my brother Laney was go to LA get out in the stratosphere, because I had become like a master of like getting money from the music industry. Like, not hits though.
We know.
No hits, but
we know.
I knew how to make A&Rs happy, but not necessarily move the public, which is a whole different thing. And Jermaine and those guys was moving the public, and Laney was like, go to LA, get in a space with them and go crazy. Well, we went crazy creatively. It was a lot of ups, a lot of weirdness, because this is like, you know, just like we're different.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, you got to learn how to be uncomfortable. And he sent me out there and it got me uncomfortable. He's like, just stop worrying about red zone, which y'all call red zone. We call triangle sound, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, he was just like, don't work in the studio. Don't worry about if the light ain't working. Don't worry about if that's not, like, because once you become a studio owner, and like, that's a different thing. And he put me in a different studio for a month, and we wrote all these crazy songs, just like not thinking about the music industry, just for the first time, really not finding, like, not trying to get paid.
Yes.
Doing it for passion.
Just doing magic, making magic.
Not trying to get paid. And so that's when everything really clicked, when the freedom really clicked. And then when me and Dream got back from having that trip and having that moment and that opportunity clicked, he was ready for that moment, because he had left us for a short period, went off on his own, became a writer and producer. And then when he came back and started showing me his stuff, I was like, whatever that is, I'm fucking with that.
Yeah.
And that was the indicator for me that it was time to kind of move in, because before that, he was just coming around being nice and trying to fit in and getting in where he could fit in. But then he went off and did something with Nivea, a project that he did in Japan.
Yeah.
And I heard that, and I was like, yeah, these concepts ain't like what everybody else is talking about. And so we got in, and he started writing songs like Umbrella and Suffocate and all these titles that I get to, you know, say that I'm part of now. But that part of it is so important, to have somebody go put a ring on it, or somebody to say, you know, like No Church in the Wild or Holy Grail. Like, these ain't the concepts that come up in studios all the time. You know what I mean? So that became my life, and then I got used to it, and then there was no. I mean, and I'm just like on the writing.
Spoiled.
I mean, on the writing stuff, like, man, I just honestly, it just takes me. I got a process, and it's not for today. It's not for tomorrow. It's like I'm trying to get it.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get finished. Like, I can work on a record for 8 years. It don't matter to me. Like, if once somebody writes it, I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it on the production side. Like, but once I hear the lyric and I know what they're saying and why, then. But if you're not saying nothing, it's just melodies and harmonies and shit. I'm not your guy.
Who is someone that you want to work with that you haven't had a chance to work with? Like I remember hearing a Dream say his top of his list was Prince. And he was like, Prince was like, that's not going to happen. Something like that.
Yeah, I would never want to work with Prince. Like, I mean, I love Prince. Like, that's my number one influence. But
wait, how is it your number one influence, but you wouldn't want to work with them?
Because all things are not created equal.
Oh,
What does that mean?
I like that.
It means I'm not there. Like, that's a different man now. Like, that was a different type of level. Like, if you listen to Darlin' Nikki, just in particular, I challenge you to figure out what kind of drums he's using. Like, tell me where the sounds come from. I've been doing this a long time. I don't know where the sounds come from.
You have one record that you produced
Yeah.
that feels like Prince made it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I mean, I do it all the time, but which one?
Fancy.
No.
Fancy feels like Prince was in the room. His spirit was in the room. Like,
I mean,
what?
Prince's spirit is always in my room.
But that one I heard, and I was like, I remember hearing that
More
record.
than 1
I'm
plus
like,
1?
Him.
More than 1 plus 1? More than.
Okay, so Fancy. So 1 plus 1 still feels like I'm telling you about my heart. Like it feels like I'm trying to make sense to you. Fancy just felt like y'all was in heaven or on some kind of drugs, and it was just like beautiful women walking around, and y'all was just
it is.
Like it was like, bro, like it was definitely cocaine in the room, drugs in the room. It was crazy, and it had to, even if it wasn't, God was in the room. It was that certain records I hear, and I'm like, bro, like what the fuck was you on when you made that? Like Fancy is that kind of record where it's like. And then the way you sped it up and slowed it down and all we do. And it was so dope you had to do a remix. And then they give it to, did y'all give it to like Fab or somebody and he made a remix to it or something like that?
He made a remix. We didn't make that remix.
Bro, certain records, like LA will always say certain records, God was in the room when they was made.
Yeah. No,
Fancy was one of those records.
Yeah, Fancy is that's my Picasso. That's our one.
A Picasso. That's his Picasso.
That's your art.
Right,
yeah,
so
that's it. And I don't like art much, but I like that. I like hits.
Art. You like literally are a walking artist. So I want us to get into what we came here for, our R&B debate. Before we jump into that, I do want to ask you, what is the biggest difference between R&B music back in the day and to R&B music that we have right now?
The biggest difference between R&B music of yesterday and today is that when music isn't good enough, we call it R&B.
Oh my God! I don't want no parts.
Hold on. Say that again.
To hide under the table.
We call it R&B when it ain't good enough.
Hold on, when it's not good enough, we call it R&B?
Yeah.
I thought it was the opposite. I thought sometimes
no
it wasn't good enough to be called R&B.
Nah.
Can you explain a little bit? I'm gonna look down because I don't.
Listen, some of these songs ain't as good as the people be pretending they are. Like, listen, like when you write great songs, you don't have to choose between culture, R&B. They don't call it nothing. They call it. Have you heard? Have you heard Beyonce new song? Like right now, people trying to say Beyonce made a dance album. She's an R&B artist. She made an up-tempo album as an R&B black girl from Houston. Like. I don't care what nobody say. That it's not it's like the playlist and got people's heads twisted about when you hear a tempo, you think this is R&B. Like no, Babyface and Diane Warren was responsible for making you feel that R&B was a down tempo game. Like they made it, and it's particularly when Babyface lost L.A. L.A. brought the rhythm to the records, and when he didn't have that drum dude, he started making slower songs because that's what he could do.
You see why I like talking to him?
I know.
I love talking to him. Like,
think about it. Like,
he tells the truth.
Did Stevie Wonder sing slow? Did Stevie Wonder slow songs? Are they slow? I mean, are his great songs, are they slow?
But not only that, the slow ones didn't feel slow. It still felt like it was a doom.
Yeah, but
it still had a rhythm.
When you go in and listen to all Michael Jackson's great songs, Off the Wall and all that, do you feel like there's this is a great song and this is not?
No,
you don't, because you can write a great up-tempo song, or you can write a great song that has tempo. It's not, R&B is not slow. It's a lot of people talking like they R&B aficionados of records and stuff like that. And it's like, no, sometimes your record isn't good enough, like at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
Your record's not good enough. It's not great
so
enough.
if you had to say something, if you had to say the demise of R&B,
I would never say that.
No, I said if you had to say there was a demise of R&B, what would you say? Like, what would you say was one of the things that hurt it? Because I feel like it's like the purest version of love and emotion.
The biggest demise of R&B will always be the idea of when Los Angeles gets involved and says, "You need a big song. You need a crossover." When you start trying to do something that you're not, that's not home, doesn't mean it's not a great song. It just means that it's not for you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, think about Escape, right? Take Escape. Escape, super dominant in their space. Then somebody got in their ear and told them that Jermaine Dupri wasn't good enough, but he was good enough for your biggest artist in Mariah Carey because she needed that. But the same group on the same artist needed someone else to make a song called "Run to the Arms," and I feel like that changed the trajectory of them. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that whether that's Toni Braxton or whoever that is, and coming with an "Unbreak My Heart," yeah, it was cool. It was a great song. But Love Should Have Brought You Home.
Love Should Have Brought You.
In 7 whole days.
What?
And those records that she has made, particularly with Kenny Babyface Edmonds, they never, even when they pop, they never missed us.
They never.
But black artists have to learn to never dance to a different drum.
Say it again one more time.
Hold on.
They might not have heard you.
You
Hold on,
can't
man.
dance to the beat of a different
I ain't
drum.
never heard you say. I never heard nobody say that before. You said, even if it's pop, it still didn't miss us. So it's okay to be pop, but don't miss us.
Yeah, don't miss us. Like, I don't feel like when people talk about like a record like Oh My God, like for Usher, which was an EDM record, he's still will.i.am still signed by Eazy-E, right?
Yeah, he was still sold.
It's still black music at the core. But that's a different conversation than more. You know what I'm saying? That's a different song. It got a different drummer playing the beat.
Yes.
So you have to don't change the drummer. You can change the chords. Don't change the drummer.
It need to be
very important.
It needs to be someone in the room. But
All
let's
right,
get to our
hold on.
list.
Yep,
let's get to our list.
All right, now I'm about to go hide under the table because it's
No, it's okay. It's okay. So Tricky told me. Tricky said, Ray, I want to do top 5 female vocalists from the 90s on.
Wait, before we even get
I gotta
into
make
this,
sure we say we're not talking catalog. We're not talking hits. We're talking vocalist.
this turned our office
that's
upside
what you
down.
talking-
We've been arguing.
This
for
we had a
a
whole.
minute.
This had the whole office screaming and yelling.
That's not what I'm
I'm
talking
so
about.
interested.
So what you
in
talking
seeing-
about? Hold on, what you talking about?
I'm talking about 90s
90s,
vocalists.
period, 90s
And part of being a
vocalists.
great vocalist.
Male and female.
No.
Oh, female. Okay.
But part of being a great vocalist is singing
Email,
great
okay.
songs.
Oh well, shit, we all good then. Let's go. So Tricky.
Don't bring Shay
So hold on.
for backup.
Hold on.
For
So the whole way it goes, Tricky. You have to. The show is called the GAUDS Show. It stands for goats and underdogs.
Let 'em know.
You have to give us your 5 goats. Your 5 underdogs and your 5 goats from 5 to 1. So we're gonna let you start with your underdogs
Your
first.
underdogs from the 90s.
From the 90s.
Just state them. You don't got to
man.
give us an explanation yet. We're gonna go back.
We
So
can get the
just tell
explanation,
us
but run through your list.
My underdogs.
vocalists. 90s.
Kelly Price. Tamia. Faith Evans. Deborah Cox. Tamar Braxton.
Fucking forgot.
We get chewed up.
I told my whole team, Carter, you right there. I said, y'all motherfuckers need to help me because he ain't gonna come to play with me. He ain't gonna come to play with me. You just said 2 names I ain't think about. Man.
Okay, you got one more now.
No, he got it.
I mean, I have other ones.
No, hold on.
I picked the top. I picked 5. I picked 5 out of my 7.
He came for us. Hold on. Come on, Ray. Step up.
All right, my 5 underdogs vocalists are Mary J. Blige,
Okay.
Brandy, underdogs.
You're under.
Mary J. Blige, 5, Brandy, 4, Coco from SWV, 3, number 2, Kelly Price, and number 1, Kiki Wyatt.
These are your underdogs? Okay.
That's what's up.
Underdog list. That's my.
Are we going to explain this now?
No,
Or are we
I'm
going to go
just
straight
saying-
into the GOATs?
Let's go to the coach.
No, let's go to goats. Let's go to
he
goats.
say, bring them out. Come on. Let's go. Ding, ding, ding.
I do have one person I want to say that appears on both my lists, honestly.
Who?
Oh, I like that. We never had
I'll
that.
tell you after I say.
He said after preview.
My goats are Whitney Houston,
5,
Hello.
Mariah Carey.
4.
I'm not rating.
Okay, we rate from 5 to 1.
Oh, well, let
yeah, now you're in
me go back.
Bring it back.
And that wasn't in order.
No, it's
No,
cool.
you
I just
on
said
the
you
other
fucked me up
thing.
when you said
Now we
Whitney
back in
5.
order.
It's like, come on. Give me.
At 5, I'm going Mary J. Blige. 4, I'm going Coco from SWV.
Oh, it's getting intense.
3, I'm going Brandy.
Ooh.
This is tough right here because that's 3, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
3 is Brandy.
I have to go Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston.
Is number 1.
Who's one?
Whitney is 1.
Whitney's always
Okay,
one,
thank
and it's
you.
not even close.
There's somebody probably.
But I just want to. This has a caveat because Lauryn Hill is in mine at the top,
We got honorable mentions. We'll come back.
and Toni Braxton is on both my lists. She's on the top. She's on
I
the
like
top
that.
and the bottom.
Can I tell you why I like these lists? Because it kind of tells you how to see people. Because it's like, it was certain names I had where I was like, how do they...
Don't try to give excuses.
I ain't giving no excuse. Let me get my 5. I ain't giving no excuses. Hold on. My 5. Here go my 5. Number 5
because
is...
he be bringing a backup. That's
number
why.
5 is Jasmine Sullivan. Number 4 is Jennifer Hudson.
Underdogs.
Wait, what-
Underdogs.
This is
Underdogs.
GOATs.
Oh, this is GOATs? Oh, shoot.
That was his GOAT list. Let me get my GOAT list. Number 5 is Jasmine Sullivan. Number 4 is Jennifer Hudson. Number 3, Mariah Carey. Number 2, Beyonce. And number 1, Whitney Houston.
Okay, Braxton, when you do this, can we please have a visual? Because I need to see these GOATs and underdogs compared. Because we done switched and crossed and did some
But hold on. So you had Mary J. Blige in your GOATs?
You had her in your underdogs.
I know, because we were saying
vocals, I agree.
Mary J.
vocals
Blige
and
has a
songs
better
are two different
catalog
things.
than all of them, probably.
That's not what we said,
I'm
right?
outdone.
The email said vocals.
I'm outdone. I'm silent.
Silent.
Hold on, what?
No, you gotta come defend this. You gotta come stand on stage. You gotta tell us why.
Hold on. Mary, I said she was on my GOAT list. And the entire team was like, no, she's an underdog.
No, because they talking. They over there. They huddling in the corner. Look at Shayna.
I was prepared for you.
Let me explain,
go ahead.
Let me explain something to you, Ray.
Let's hear
Ray
it.
Daniels.
Ooh, you know you in trouble when the principal say your whole name. The principal has said your whole name.
To put, and this is no shade at anybody.
Let's go.
Tell me the top 5, like
Underdog,
Jennifer Hudson,
Jasmine Sullivan, Mariah Carey, Beyonce, and then Whitney Houston.
Listen, 2 of them people need to go. That's the first 2. I'm gonna tell you why. Because part of being a great vocalist is the idea that you have to be able to identify a great song. And so they disqualified. Because if you're going to play, I don't know what you're going to play after Spotlight, but nah. I don't know what you're going to play. I don't know what record you're going to play me if I play you a Whitney Houston song.
No, but Whitney Houston number 1. She's not, me and you got the same 1 and 2.
But I don't know if I'm going to play Lauryn Hill, what Jennifer Hudson record you're going to play.
We were saying vocalists. We wasn't talking about, we said vocals only. And we was talking about songs. I was specific. I heard you say vocalists.
First off, let me just tell you, part of being a vocalist is being able to deliver. Is the magic is in delivering the song that needs to be delivered the way it needs to be delivered. And so Whitney Houston just Whitney Houston as a voice of, obviously, like, everybody's career gets shrunk down, but I'm just saying, just The Bodyguard alone makes her.
No woman has a better song vocal performance than Whitney Houston.
But think about
Me and Jay.
But Ray, but think about how will I know? Think about I'm Every Woman. Think about what she did to up-tempo songs. Think about the Queen of the Night. Things that she did as an up-tempo singer, as well as Saving All My Love for You. The versatility.
I agree.
What versatility have you seen in those 2 particular artists? Like, from this gamut to that gamut.
I'm gonna stand on my shit, but I'm gonna say something. Everybody here know for the first 45 minutes of our argument, my top 3 is my top 3. The last 2 was the one.
Don't bring in the
I'm standing on my shit.
This is what you came in front of the camera.
No. Hold on, I'm standing on.
Hold on.
It's only one person he said that. It's only one person he said that I'm like, I didn't think about that, and that's Deborah Cox.
Hello.
You should have thought about a lot of people.
We saying vocals.
Your list is absolute shit.
Huh?
Your list is shit.
You bugging. You hold on.
Boo.
We got the same people. Kelly Price. Kiki Wyatt is not an incredible vocalist.
No, y'all had to say
on the underdog list.
I don't have a song that she can sing. Like, I don't like.
But we talking about vocalists.
No, he threw you in the trash,
vocalist.
Ray.
How
you
you evaluate a vocalist is by delivery of something that we can't live without.
Ray, defend your vocals.
Like, it's just you can't separate. You can't separate the 2. And when I thought about this list in detail, because I can't say like Mary J. Blige. I can't tell you that Mary J. Blige in the 90s was the greatest vocalist, right? But I had to put her first because when I listened through the material, if somebody makes you feel the way that she make you feel on those first 2 albums, like in particular, and all the way through, and now she's an amazing vocalist. But I'm talking about, it's about delivery. And when you listen to Real Love, when you listen to Reminisce, when you listen to those songs, these are things that cannot be separated from a feeling standpoint to our culture.
From this point forward, I will make every decision on my own.
Everybody in the office is
everything you saying, I was like Mary J. Blige, because I was like, but we was
I want to say, I'd be telling Ray, stop getting back up, stop asking for the coach in the back. You did this on your own, right? Ray should have stood on his own authentic opinion.
Hold on.
He knew he was coming for war.
Hold on. I'm gonna just say this. So hold on. So you know what? I ain't gonna lie. I'm gonna give you your list. I'm gonna give you your list. I just said your list is better than mine.
Can I?
I just listen. I never have I ever done that.
Ding ding ding.
I've ever done that. I said your list is better than mine.
Listen,
my list was ours, but it's mine when it lost. You know, Daddy's maybe. What they say? No. What they say? What they say? Like, success has many fathers, but failure is a fucking orphan. I'm an orphan today. It's all good, but I appreciate it. I knew you was coming. Trick, I knew you was coming, and we was in here playing everything. And only person that really truly helped me was Carden. I got to give my man Carden, because Carden, he was in it with me and we was there.
I challenge y'all to listen to Mia's first album. Listen to You Put a Move on My Heart. Listen to her vocal on You Put a Move on My Heart. Her very first offering into the music business. Listen to that.
The best female vocalist song of all time is Whitney Houston, I Have Nothing.
I mean, it's one of them.
To me, I just
you said that's one of them. So give me some more. Give me some more. That's one.
We talking this era? Are we
talking
regular? We talking Chaka?
No, we talking about 90s up.
Gang. He said the whole gang. He said Aretha.
No, but I'm just saying, like vocalists, like I can't think of a better song vocally that a woman has done than Whitney Houston, I Have Nothing. Like that is like the peak of vocal. Like it's like God was in the room. She was out. He stepped in her body and sung out with her.
That's exactly what happened. I think. I'm almost sure that's exactly.
But hold on, I got to do my list for you, Tricky. Mm-hmm. Here's my top 5. This is why I give my man his flowers, and I tell him my favorite, my Tricky list. Here's my top 5 underdog records for Tricky. My top 5 in order. 5 is Beyonce Dance for You. 4 is Novocaine. Number 3 is Fancy. Number 2 is 1+1, and you're gonna love me when I say this. And number 1 is JT Money. Who that?
Okay.
You know, I gotta give Who That.
He ain't know that was gonna be number 1.
He know why I'm saying that, because Who That was like the record that saved that. I gotta give that. That's the underdog, because it's a record that people wouldn't know how important it was to the.
What's your top 5?
The top 5 in order: Mary Just Fine, The Dream Falsetto, The Dream Rockin' That Shit, Beyonce Single Ladies, and Umbrella, Ella.
Umbrella number 5?
Huh? No, it can't be.
Number 5?
No, Umbrella's number 1. I went 5 to 1.
Okay.
What you got? Oh, he got his own top of himself.
Give me your top 5 that Tricky's done. Your 5.
Successful, like
underdog. Your underdog that you like. I just personally love this record.
Shoot, this is tough because I really don't think about fails. Moving Mountains.
5. Usher, Moving Mountains.
I was singing that when I was in high school. Like I went through something.
High Price by Sierra.
Okay.
Listen to it. It's the best shit I ever done. Puffy brought me over to his house to watch me listen to it for a whole day.
Wow. High Price by Sierra. I'm gonna go check that out.
Ride was the second follow up. The label didn't think the first one was it. It was the one. It was her version of. It was her when we were on Absolutely in Our Zone. It was the one that was the one for her. And then we came back to the same conversation with her and Luda for Ride, but High Price was the one for me.
2.
Yeah, I don't, you know.
It's hard to grade yourself.
No, it's just like fail.
No, not failures. Just records that weren't hits on the radio. Like
yeah,
it could
that's
just
a fail.
No. radio does not make it a hit.
That's a fail.
NBA Youngboy ain't got no songs.
Favorite records that I've made. Let me think. Okay.
You still got 2 favorites, and you got to give your GOAT list. Rocking That Shit, number 2. On your
3.
underdog list. Rocking That is that shit.
Rocking That was a bigger record than it should have been bigger.
Should have been way bigger.
Right?
And by the way, it's one of the rare records that if it came out right now, 2022, it would still go.
Rocking That.
TikTok would have been going crazy right now.
There's a record that I did on Mario called Starlight that I should have given to Maroon 5 that they begged me for it. That I should have never given it to them. It would have changed Maroon 5's life.
So Starlight Mario, number 1.
Tell him.
Number 2.
Number 2.
And these, for me, these are the records I'm talking creatively.
Yeah, this is your taste.
There's a record that we did with Usher and Mary J. Blige called Shakedown on the Growing Pains album.
Okay, I don't know that one, but I'm going to listen.
The album was great. We won Album of the Year, but it was a lot of marketing campaigns going on, and they were weakening the songs by doing marketing exercises. So some of the songs never got to so everybody thinks it was just fine, but it's literally one of the most fulfilling albums that like I was like, oh shit, we did some shit and it didn't happen like it happened. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, we sold 800,000 the first week.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, but it didn't, you know what I'm saying?
So tell me your 5 GOAT records. Tricky Stewart, these are my 5 gems.
Fancy.
5.
4, 1.
1 is Fancy?
Uno.
Novocaine.
2.
Umbrella.
3.
Single Ladies.
4.
Come on now. Got one left.
I'm gonna have to give it to the king. It's just we did so many great ones. I just want to say Love Hate.
The album.
Overall.
Love Hate.
Yo, can I say something? I'm not even bullshit, and I ain't saying it because you just here. I put Love Hate in my top 10 R&B albums ever made.
Really?
What?
No, I just never heard you say that.
No.
I would say that too.
That album. That album is art.
Realistically
That album is art.
Realistically, it could be in the conversation. I'm not saying that it is.
It is though.
So you submitting it in the Grammy?
Playing in my hair, falsetto. Like what? I love your girl.
Easy.
Come on, man, y'all bugging.
No, they wasn't there.
Shawty's a 10.
Shawty's a 10.
That was my callback
Needs my-
ringtone for so
Nikki.
long. Shorty is
first
a
2
10.
albums was,
I thought I was going to
some
jump
of-
out at 23 in a Benz because of that.
So man, we just want to thank Tricky for coming. This
Oh,
was
wait,
amazing.
no, before Tricky goes, I have
Okay.
a question for him, and we know we got to ask this. Do you consider yourself a GOAT or underdog?
I don't consider myself either one of those things. This you gotta every day you have to prove it. Like you have to prove it every fucking day. Like there's nothing, nobody cares about old news. You know what I'm saying? So it's just I'm not that GOAT conversation. I come from a generation where the GOAT conversation is reserved for one person in my mind, and that was Michael Jordan. Like it's not a series of GOATs. Michael Jordan became the GOAT because he at the time overtook entertainment in its entirety over Michael Jackson, over Prince, over everybody that was doing everything. Every actor with the most cinematographical, I mean, that's not a word, cinematic thing. The most cinematic thing that you could do at that time is watch a person perform live. And then you know what's going to happen and then watch them do it. That is not a title that I would never be in a GOAT conversation. I don't think that there is any GOAT other than Michael Jordan. And like, that's like, I hate that conversation.
Well, we put you in a GOAT conversation. With the underdog mentality, but your records is goated. It's some niggas that you may look.
No, it's a lot of people that want to be goated.
No, you can't. He has the mama mentality. He basically saying, I got to wake up and do it every day, so I can't get caught up in what I've done. But if you look at what you've done, you actually say you have a Picasso in your catalog, and that's fancy.
Yeah, but no, see, that's not like. Listen, that's some GOAT shit. No, listen, this GOAT conversations, you done struck a nerve because ultimately, like, listen, there is no GOAT. Like, if you know that Quincy Jones exists, shut your mouth.
Agreed.
If David Foster's out there, be quiet. You're not a GOAT. You're not. I don't care how many records you get. I don't care how much success you have. When you can't walk into a studio and do that, like, you know what you're capable of. When I walk in the studio, I know what I'm capable of. And I see people that I walk in the studio and be like, got to be more careful. Oh, my goodness. Like, and so you have to have great friends. You got to, like, if you ever watch them, you'll never have that conversation. You ever been around Max Martin, Pharrell? Like, you're not having that kind of conversation with yourself. Like, you're fooling yourself. I challenge you to pull up a Pharrell Williams playlist and then pull up a Neptune's playlist and then call yourself a GOAT. I challenge anybody to do that. You don't do that. Like Jermaine Dupri, these people, man, they forgot about more hits than you got, and you calling yourself a GOAT. They don't even remember their catalog.
Facts.
Shut the fuck up.
Period. Y'all
Tricky's message to the young community. That's the end of the show. I love it. Cut from there. Thank you, my brother Tricky Stewart, for showing up.
It's a girl. Wait, see, now you done fucked me up.
Oh, go ahead.
Now you done
Go ahead.
lost me.
It's your girl.
All right, no.
It's your girl.
Best way I done cut it out. This is the GAUDS Show. Thank you for tuning in. We're sitting here with Ray Daniels, and we're not gonna call him a GOAT, but what should we call you? The legend, the man, the myth?
Call me a producer.
Oh, the producer, the one and only.
Producer.
Oh,
That's it.
a producer.
I still got a job, y'all.
got a
I got
bunch
a
of
job.
slashes.
He still got work to do. He still got history to write. Thank you for being on the show, Tricky. Let's go.
We
Thank you
appreciate
for having me.
Stay safe, guys. Thank you.